Captain Aiden Ryder adjusted the straps of his spacesuit as he stepped out of the shuttle. The planet's surface stretched endlessly before him, a shimmering expanse of glowing forests and rivers that sparkled like liquid crystals. He could feel the faint vibration of the ground beneath his boots, as if the planet itself was alive. The air smelled strange, a mixture of ozone and something sweet, almost floral. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and caution. "Stay close," he ordered his crew through the communicator. "We don't know what we might encounter here." His team nodded, though their nervousness was clear even through their helmets. This planet, named Luminara, had been marked on human star charts as unexplored, with faint signals indicating life, but nothing concrete. Aiden had spent years preparing for this mission. The idea of being among the first humans to meet an alien civilization thrilled him. The first few hours were quiet. Strange glowing plants lined the paths, their light shifting in colors from soft green to deep violet. Bioluminescent insects hovered like tiny lanterns. Aiden scanned the area, taking samples and recording everything. He marveled at how organized the ecosystem was. Every plant seemed to support another in some delicate balance. Night came quickly. On Luminara, the sky was darker than Earth's and the stars burned brighter. Aiden had noticed faint movement in the distance beyond the trees, and curiosity drew him forward. He left the main path and walked quietly, careful not to disturb whatever creatures lived here. That's when he heard it, a soft sound almost like a whisper mixed with tears. He froze. The sound was unmistakable, someone was crying. But it was not human. The pattern was irregular, the sobs deep and melodic, echoing slightly in the cold night air. Aiden's pulse quickened. "This way," he whispered into his communicator, motioning for no one to follow just yet. He didn't want to frighten whoever or whatever it was. He followed the sound to a small clearing near a river that glowed pale blue under the moonlight. And there she was, the alien queen. Aiden had seen images of alien life forms in archives and simulations, but nothing prepared him for this. She was enormous, at least 3 meters tall, with slender limbs that ended in delicate glowing tendrils. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, reflecting the moonlight in soft rainbow colors. Her eyes, large and luminous, were wet with tears. She sat alone on a rock, head bowed, and her wings, transparent and fragile, folded around her like a protective shield. Aiden's breath caught. He had expected hostility, or at least caution, but not this, an alien queen crying alone in the middle of her world. "Sir," one of his team whispered nervously in his communicator. "What do we do?" "Watch," Aiden replied softly. "And do not make a sound." He stepped forward slowly, keeping his hands visible. I'm Aiden Ryder, I mean no harm," he said carefully. His voice sounded strange in his helmet, too mechanical, but he hoped she could sense his intention. The queen lifted her head slightly. Her eyes locked onto his. For a moment, Aiden felt an unspoken weight, the sorrow of an entire civilization carried on a single being. Her tears glowed faintly like liquid light. Aiden swallowed hard. He had faced dangerous creatures, even hostile aliens before, but nothing like this. He crouched slightly, trying to appear smaller, less threatening. "I don't understand your language," he admitted, "but I want to help." The queen's tendrils quivered, a soft vibration like a sigh escaping her. She didn't move away, which was a small sign of trust. Slowly, she pointed toward the sky and then back to herself, repeating the gesture. Aiden frowned, trying to interpret. She wanted to show him something, perhaps her story, but how? He took a deep breath. "Maybe I can learn. Maybe I can understand." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small recorder, switching it on. "If you speak, I can try to capture it. If you gesture, I'll follow." The queen tilted her head, observing him, then pointed to a nearby tree. Her tendrils touched the ground, leaving faint glowing marks. She made soft, melodic sounds, like music made of sorrow and longing. Aiden's translator device tried to interpret, but it mostly returned strange symbols he had never seen before. He watched closely. The patterns in her movements reminded him of human gestures of grief, covering her face, curling inward, rocking slightly. And yet it was more profound, more expressive than anything he had ever seen. Aiden knelt on one knee, showing respect. I don't know what made you cry, but I know being alone hurts." The queen's eyes widened and she paused. Then, she moved closer to the river and dipped one of her tendrils into the glowing water. The light of the river reflected off her skin, highlighting her tears even more. She looked at Aiden, and in that gaze he felt something he had never experienced before. A silent plea for understanding, not help. "I won't leave," he whispered. "I'll stay if you let me." For a moment there was only the sound of the river, the faint hum of glowing insects, and the Queen's soft sobs. Then slowly she rose. She towered over him, her presence both majestic and sorrowful. Aiden felt a mixture of fear and awe, yet he did not step back. She gestured for him to follow. Hesitantly he obeyed. She led him through the glowing forest, silent except for the soft music of her cries blending with the nocturnal sounds of the planet. After a while, they reached a cliff overlooking a vast valley. The valley was filled with structures, tall crystalline towers that glowed softly in the night. But there was something else, no movement, no signs of life. It was empty. The Queen sank to the ground, her wings folding tightly around her. She placed one hand on the ground and then pointed at the valley, as if showing him what had been lost. Aiden's heart ached as he realized the truth. This planet had once been full of life, perhaps a thriving civilization, and now she was alone, the last of her kind. He knelt beside her. I understand. You're lonely," he said, "but you're not helpless, maybe we can find a way to help each other." The Queen looked at him for a long moment. There was hesitation but also curiosity. She leaned slightly toward him, her glowing tendrils brushing his arm. It was a gesture of connection, a bridge between human and alien, grief and hope. Aiden felt a surge of determination. This was bigger than exploration, bigger than discovery. This was about understanding life in its purest form, even when it was the last of its kind. He decided then that he would protect her, not because it was part of the mission, but because it was the right thing to do. "Rest for now," he whispered. "Tomorrow we can talk more. I want to learn your story. I want to help." The Queen curled into a protective position, and for the first time that night she allowed herself to feel a small glimmer of relief. She was not entirely alone anymore. Aiden settled on a nearby rock, gazing at the glowing valley. Stars reflected in the river below, and the alien world seemed almost peaceful despite the weight of loss. He knew this was only the beginning. Whatever her story was, it would change everything he thought he knew about life, loneliness, and the strength of the human heart. The night passed slowly, with only the soft hum of the planet and the occasional whisper of the Queen's tears. Aiden stayed awake, making notes, recording observations, and thinking about what tomorrow might bring. He didn't feel fear. He felt awe, and he felt a quiet, burning hope that humans, with their courage, empathy, and resilience might just be the key to bridging the universe's deepest sorrows. When the first light of Luminara's twin suns crept over the horizon, the valley shimmered like a dream. The Queen stirred slightly, her glowing eyes meeting Aiden's. No words were spoken, yet they shared a silent understanding. The journey was beginning, and together, they might face the darkness ahead. The sun had barely risen over Luminara, painting the sky in soft hues of pink and gold, when Captain Aiden Ryder stirred from his position near the alien Queen. The air was cooler than he expected, carrying the faint scent of the glowing forests. The Queen had not moved much during the night, her massive form curled protectively as if guarding something precious. Perhaps memories, perhaps hope. Aiden brushed the dust from his suit and gently approached. "Good morning," he said softly. "I hope you slept well." The Queen's large eyes opened slowly. She blinked, and the glow in her tears had dimmed. She tilted her head, observing him with curiosity and caution. Aiden remembered the first night he had seen her cry and realized how brave she had been just to let him stay near. "I want to understand you," he continued. "Not as a scientist, but as someone who cares. Maybe we can share our stories. I can teach you about humans, and you can teach me about your world." The Queen made a soft, melodic sound that Aiden felt in his chest rather than just hearing. He smiled, hoping it meant she was willing to try. Slowly, she rose and motioned for him to follow her. She led him through a winding path in the forest, the bioluminescent plants casting gentle light around them. Every now and then, she touched a plant or hovered her tendrils over a pool of water, and the glow of the plants seemed to respond to her presence. Aiden noted the connection. This planet wasn't just alive in a physical sense. It seemed to respond to the Queen herself, as if the land recognized her as its guardian. They reached a clearing where enormous stone arches rose like the bones of an ancient creature. The queen paused and looked back at Aiden. She made a series of gestures, moving her tendrils, tilting her head, and pointing to the arches. Aiden frowned. It looked like she wanted him to follow her inside. He took a deep breath. "All right," he said. "Let's see where this leads." Inside, the arches opened into a large chamber. The walls were covered with strange markings and glowing symbols. The queen approached one of the walls, placing a hand against it. The symbols shimmered and shifted, forming shapes that Aiden could barely recognize. He activated his translator device, hoping to make sense of them. The queen's gestures became more expressive. She traced a line from the top of the wall to the bottom, then pointed to herself, and finally to Aiden. He realized she was showing him something personal, her history, her connection to this world. Aiden knelt to observe more closely. "You want me to understand your story," he said. "I'll try. Please, show me." The queen produced a low hum that resonated through the chamber. Images began to flicker on the walls like holograms. Aiden gasped. They showed massive cities, vibrant forests, and alien creatures moving gracefully through the streets. The queen was at the center of it all, her wings spread wide, her tendrils reaching out to guide her people. Then the images changed. Fires raged through cities. Strange storms swept the land. Creatures fled in panic, and the queen was alone, trying desperately to protect her people. The holograms showed a cosmic catastrophe, an asteroid shower, violent storms, and other dangers that the queen's civilization had struggled against. And then silence. Aiden felt a lump in his throat. He understood now why she had cried. She had lost everything. Her people, her friends, her family gone. She was the last carrying memories that no one else could share. The queen turned to him. Her eyes glowed softly, and for the first time there was a hint of hope in them. She pointed to the images and then gestured toward Aiden as if asking for help. Not just to survive, but to carry the weight of her story with her. Aiden swallowed hard. I can't replace them," he said, "but I can help you remember. And maybe I can help you find a way to be less alone." The queen made a sound like a sigh of relief. She extended a tendril and touched his hand. The contact was brief, but it carried warmth and trust. For a being who had spent centuries alone, this small gesture was monumental. Over the next hours, Aiden and the queen worked together. He showed her human ways of communication, pictures, simple words, and gestures that conveyed emotions. In return, she demonstrated the history of her people, teaching him through holographic images, musical tones, and movement. Aiden realized that her grief was intertwined with love. She was not just mourning loss. She was preserving memory, ensuring that the story of her civilization would not vanish entirely. By midday, they had formed a silent rhythm. The queen would gesture and Aiden would interpret, slowly piecing together details about her species, their customs, their values, and their remarkable intelligence. He was impressed by how advanced they were, yet how deeply emotional and compassionate the queen remained. Unlike many alien species humans had encountered, she had a soul that shone through her grief. Aiden took a step back and observed her. "Your people must have been incredible," he said softly. "I wish I could have met them." The queen lowered her head, her wings folding slightly. She made a sound that Aiden interpreted as acknowledgement. Perhaps she shared his wish, perhaps she mourned it again. But then she did something unexpected. She pointed toward the horizon where a distant tower rose above the treetops. It pulsed with faint light like a heartbeat. Aiden followed her gaze. "Is that important?" he asked. The queen made a series of quick gestures, pointing at the tower and then at herself, as if saying, "It's part of me, but it's dangerous." Curiosity surged in Aiden. "I see," he said. "You want me to come, but carefully?" The queen tilted her head, her glowing eyes studying him. Then slowly she stepped back and motioned for him to follow, but only from a distance. It was clear she trusted him, but she also wanted to maintain boundaries. They moved through the forest, carefully navigating around glowing plants and shallow rivers. Every now and then, the queen would pause, glance back, and make soft, melodic sounds. Aiden began to understand that she was teaching him a rhythm, her way of communicating caution, interest, and emotion without words. As they neared the tower, the air grew cooler. Strange energy pulsed from its walls, making Aiden's instruments buzz. The queen stopped, hovering slightly above the ground. She looked at him, her gaze intense but not threatening. He nodded, silently promising to respect whatever lay ahead. The tower's entrance was massive, carved from a single crystal-like material. It shimmered under Luminara's twin suns, reflecting light in sharp patterns. The queen approached cautiously, placing a hand on the surface. Aiden felt a vibration run through the ground. The tower was alive, or at least connected to the planet in a way that made it responsive. He took a deep breath. "I'll follow your lead," he said. The queen's wings spread slightly and she entered the tower. Aiden followed, stepping into a world that seemed older than time itself. The walls glowed with images, stories of victories, celebrations, and disasters. The queen moved gracefully, touching each story as if drawing strength and memory from it. Aiden observed quietly. He realized that these walls were not just records. They were part of the queen. Her history, her sorrow, and her hope were all imprinted here. For the first time, he felt the true depth of her loneliness. Hours passed as they moved through the tower. Aiden recorded everything, not just as a scientist, but as someone who wanted to honor her story. The queen's sorrow seemed to lessen slightly, her movements more fluid, her gestures less heavy. The presence of another being, someone who cared, was helping her bear the weight she had carried for centuries. Finally, they reached a chamber filled with soft light. The queen stopped and turned to Aiden. She made a sound, a musical note that resonated deep within him. He understood without words that this was a moment of trust. She had shared part of herself, and in return, he had acknowledged it, respected it, and promised to help. Aiden smiled beneath his helmet. "We've only just begun," he said softly. "Tomorrow we'll explore more. We'll find a way to honor your people, and maybe we can find a way for you not to be alone anymore." The queen's eyes shimmered with light. For the first time, Aiden saw something beyond grief, hope. A connection had formed between human and alien, grief and compassion, loss and understanding. And for Aiden, that was a discovery more precious than any material resource or alien artifact. As they left the tower, moving back into the glowing forests, Aiden realized that this mission was no longer just about exploration. It was about friendship, empathy, and the human ability to bridge gaps no matter how vast, between worlds, between species, and even between loneliness and hope. That night, as they settled near the river again, the queen allowed herself to rest closer to him. Aiden knew it was small, but significant. Trust had been built, barriers had begun to break, and tomorrow, the journey to understand, protect, and perhaps heal this extraordinary being would continue. The morning light spilled over Luminara, illuminating the bioluminescent forest in soft shades of green and violet. Captain Aiden Ryder awoke to find the alien queen already moving quietly, her glowing tendrils brushing gently over the plants around her. She had returned to her natural rhythm, but there was still a weight in her eyes, a quiet sorrow that no sunlight could erase. Aiden adjusted his equipment and followed her. Today, he hoped, they would reach deeper into the mysteries of her world. The previous day had revealed only fragments of her history. Now he wanted answers, not just for himself, but to understand the burden she carried. The queen led him to the base of a towering crystalline structure at the center of the valley. Its surface shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting the light in prismatic colors. Aiden could feel a subtle vibration in the ground. This was not just a building, it was alive, or at least connected to the planet itself. The queen paused and looked at him. Her eyes glowed faintly and her wings spread slightly, a gesture of invitation. Aiden nodded and entered, careful to move slowly. The walls inside the tower were lined with holographic images, each one floating in midair, shifting and flickering as if alive. He gasped. The images depicted her civilization at its peak. Majestic cities with towers taller than any human structure, fields of glowing crops, and alien creatures moving gracefully through streets. The queen stood among them, her presence commanding yet nurturing. Aiden realized she had not just been a ruler. She had been a guide, a protector, and a symbol of hope for her people. Suddenly, the images changed. Fires erupted in the cities. Violent storms swept across the lands. Strange cosmic objects, asteroids or meteors, plummeted from the sky, devastating everything. Aiden watched in horror as creatures ran in panic and the queen appeared again, trying desperately to save them. But she could not. The images slowed, then froze. Only she remained, kneeling amid the destruction. Aiden's chest tightened. He understood now why she cried. She had witnessed the end of her civilization. She carried the memories of her people alone, a responsibility heavier than any human could imagine. The queen turned to him and extended a tendril toward the images, then to herself, then back to him. Aiden interpreted the gesture. These are my memories. I cannot let them be lost. I am alone, but I carry everything. I can help you preserve them, Aiden said softly. Maybe we can find a way together. The queen tilted her head and made a musical hum, one that seemed to vibrate through the walls. It was a sound of cautious hope. Aiden realized that even in her sorrow, she recognized the possibility of trust and collaboration. They spent hours moving through the holographic archives. The queen guided him through her people's history, their inventions, their culture, and their extraordinary bond with Luminara itself. Aiden noticed that her civilization had developed advanced technology, yet it was harmonized with nature. Cities were alive, not built upon the land, but within it. Buildings grew from the ground, guided by the queen's influence, and the creatures of her world worked alongside her people. This is incredible, Aiden whispered. Your people, they understood life in a way humans are only beginning to imagine. The queen made a low hum, almost as if acknowledging his words. Then she pointed to a sealed chamber deeper in the tower. Aiden felt a surge of curiosity mixed with caution. The queen's gestures were clear. This room held something vital, something forbidden. He followed her carefully. The entrance was covered in glowing symbols, warning outsiders to stay away. The queen touched the wall and the symbols shifted. Aiden felt a strange energy ripple through the floor. The room was active, protective, almost sentient. The queen gestured for him to step closer, but not to touch anything. Inside, Aiden saw rows of crystal containers, each holding a faintly glowing essence. Some contained images, others seemed to hold musical tones, and a few pulsed with soft light like living hearts. He realized with a start, these were memories, not just recorded data, but the very essence of the queen's civilization. The experiences, joys, and sorrows of her people were preserved here. Aiden turned to the queen. This is why you cry, he said. You're not just lonely. You're carrying your entire world on your shoulders. She tilted her head, then gently touched one of the containers. A soft light expanded briefly, showing scenes of celebration, laughter, and unity. The queen's eyes glowed brighter. Aiden understood the depth of her love. Her sorrow was inseparable from her devotion. A sudden noise startled them. From deeper in the tower, a low hum began, a warning signal. The queen froze, then moved swiftly to shield Aiden with her wings. Aiden's heart pounded. Something or someone was approaching. They hid behind one of the larger crystal structures. Shadows moved in the corridor. Aiden caught glimpses of alien drones, mechanical sentinels designed to protect the tower. Their sensors scanned the room, and Aiden realized with tension that the queen had been alone for centuries, but she was not unprotected. The drones paused near the chamber, then continued. Aiden exhaled slowly. They wouldn't harm you, right? He whispered. The queen's tendrils brushed against his arm, a gesture of reassurance. Aiden felt her gratitude and relief. Even though she was the last of her kind, the tower and its defenses remained loyal to her. After the drones moved away, they continued exploring. The queen guided him to another room filled with archives of knowledge, mathematics, star charts, and scientific records. Aiden was amazed. Her civilization had not only survived for millennia, but had mastered technology far beyond human understanding. Yet it was all abandoned now, waiting for someone to preserve it. He felt a sense of responsibility rising within him. We can share this knowledge with humans, he said. Not to take it, but to honor your people. We can help preserve it together. The queen's eyes glimmered with emotion. She made a sound, a note that felt like both gratitude and hope. For centuries she had been alone. Now she had someone who understood, someone willing to help. Hours passed as they documented and recorded as much as they could. Aiden worked tirelessly, capturing images, notes, and even trying to replicate the musical communication of the queen. He realized that human ingenuity and curiosity were beginning to bridge the gap between species. Despite their differences, they could understand and support each other. As night fell, Aiden and the queen returned to the forest clearing. The twin suns had set, and the bioluminescent plants glowed softly, illuminating their path. Aiden felt a deep admiration for her resilience. She had endured loss beyond imagining, yet she remained a guardian, a teacher, and a living testament to her civilization. "Tomorrow," Aiden said, looking at her glowing eyes, "we'll explore more. There's still so much to learn, and I want to help you preserve everything." The queen's tendrils brushed against his shoulder, a gesture of trust. Aiden felt the weight of her loneliness, but also the first flicker of hope. They were no longer alone together. As they settled near the river, the queen allowed Aiden to sit closer than the previous nights. He knew it was a small gesture, but it meant the world. She had begun to trust him completely. Aiden understood that trust was fragile, especially for someone who had carried centuries of sorrow. He vowed silently to honor it. Then a soft hum resonated from the tower in the distance. Aiden's instruments picked up unusual signals, another presence approaching Luminara. He tensed. The queen noticed immediately, her wings folding protectively. "They are coming," she said through melodic tones that Aiden's device could only partially translate. Aiden nodded. "We'll be ready," he said. He felt a surge of determination. Humans had survived against overwhelming odds before. With courage, creativity, and empathy, they could help the queen protect her legacy. The night was quiet, but tension lingered. The twin moons reflected in the river, and the glowing forest whispered softly around them. Aiden and the queen sat together, not speaking, yet sharing a silent understanding. They were no longer just a human and an alien. They were allies, bound by trust, sorrow, and the desire to protect a civilization from fading into nothingness. As he gazed at the tower in the distance, Aiden realized that this mission had become something far greater than exploration. It was about hope, preservation, and the human ability to connect with even the most alien of beings. And he knew that the challenges ahead would test them both, but together they might just succeed. The night passed slowly, filled with quiet reflection and careful preparation. Tomorrow they would face new discoveries and perhaps new dangers. But for now, the bond between human and alien queen had grown stronger. And in that bond there was hope. A hope that even in the vast loneliness of space, understanding and friendship could bridge the greatest distances. The morning on Luminara began quietly, but the air carried a tension that made Aiden's chest tighten. The signals from the tower had grown stronger overnight, strange energy pulses that hinted at the presence of another alien species approaching the planet. Aiden knew they needed to act quickly if they were to protect the queen's world and her priceless memories. He looked at the alien queen, who was already scanning the horizon with glowing eyes. Her wings flared slightly in agitation. Though she was powerful, she was not used to threats of this scale. She had spent centuries alone, her defenses strong against nature, but not against other intelligent invaders. "We need a plan," Aiden said, removing his helmet. "I can help. Humans, we have ways to think creatively under pressure. Together we can protect your people's legacy." The queen tilted her head, listening. She did not speak words, but her tendrils brushed over his arm in acknowledgement. She understood that he meant to help, not to interfere, but to defend. Aiden began by examining the tower and its surroundings. He noticed that the tower's structure was designed to amplify the queen's connection with the planet. The ground vibrated slightly under her presence, and the walls glowed more intensely when she focused. He realized that her emotions and concentration could trigger defensive responses, but only within the limits of her stamina. She could not defend the city alone. "We'll use your strengths," he said aloud, "and add some human ingenuity." He began devising simple but effective tools, using what the forest and the planet offered. Some plants emitted bursts of light when pressed. Others released clouds of harmless but disorienting spores. He combined these with small mechanical devices from his shuttle to create alerts, barriers, and distractions. The queen observed with curiosity, her glowing eyes widening as she realized humans could solve problems in ways she had not considered. By midday, they had set up a system of defensive measures around the city. Small drones, powered by both human technology and the queen's energy, patrolled key points. Triggered lights and sounds could confuse intruders. Spore clouds would obscure vision, and reflective surfaces could redirect light signals to warn of approaching threats. "This will give us time," Aiden explained. Time for you to act where it matters most, inside the tower, protecting your archives. The Queen's eyes glimmered. She hummed softly, a sound that Aiden recognized as approval. She moved to the center of the city, spreading her wings and connecting with the planet's energy. The ground pulsed gently, responding to her presence. For centuries, she had done this alone. Now, with Aiden's assistance, her defenses were enhanced in ways even she had not imagined. Hours passed, and Aiden and the Queen prepared for the unknown. Then at twilight, the first signs of the approaching alien species appeared. A fleet of sleek, dark ships moving silently through Luminara's skies. Aiden's instruments picked up their energy signatures. These aliens were advanced, organized, and clearly intent on entering the city. "We'll need to act quickly," Aiden said. "Follow my lead." The Queen hummed and spread her wings wider, her tendrils glowing brightly. The city responded immediately. The ground pulsed, lights flickered, and the first line of drones activated. Aiden moved among the forest edges, triggering the devices they had prepared. Spore clouds erupted. Lights reflected across the trees, and mechanical drones zipped silently through the shadows. The alien fleet hesitated. They had expected an undefended world, but instead, they encountered a coordinated system of defenses, both natural and artificial. Aiden's heart raced. This was the moment to prove the resilience and ingenuity of humans. One of the alien ships descended too low, and Aiden activated a reflective device he had positioned near a river. The ship's sensors were blinded by the sudden flash of light bouncing across the water. The Queen, sensing the opportunity, sent a pulse through the ground. The energy reverberated through the city, amplifying the disorienting effect. The alien ship veered away, confused. Aiden grinned under his helmet. "It's working," he shouted to himself. He activated another device, releasing a cloud of harmless spores that created a wall of mist. The alien ship's sensors were unable to penetrate it. The Queen moved through the city, her wings extended, her tendrils brushing the ground. She guided the drones, amplified the city's natural defenses, and coordinated with Aiden's devices. Together, they created a seamless barrier of protection. Aiden marveled at her power, but also at the effectiveness of their teamwork. For hours, the alien fleet tested the defenses, probing for weaknesses. Each attempt was met with a combination of the Queen's energy and human strategy. Aiden's mind worked rapidly, adjusting tactics, repositioning devices, and improvising new ways to confuse the invaders. Every move highlighted the unique human ability to adapt quickly under pressure. Finally, as night fully settled over Luminara, the alien fleet gave up. Their ships retreated silently, leaving the planet untouched. Aiden sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. He had just witnessed human creativity and courage in action, and it had worked. The Queen hovered near him, her glowing eyes meeting his. She made a series of melodic tones, one of the closest things to a smile she had ever shown him. Aiden understood. She was impressed, not just by his tools, but by his determination, his empathy, and his willingness to act in the face of danger. "You did it," he said softly. "Together we protected your world." The Queen extended a tendril and brushed his arm. Aiden felt the warmth of trust and respect. For centuries she had been alone, carrying grief and responsibility. Now she had a partner, someone who could think, adapt, and act alongside her. As the twin moons rose over Luminara, the city glowed peacefully. The holographic archives inside the tower pulsed gently, safe from harm. The Queen moved to the center, resting her wings, and Aiden settled nearby. The danger had passed, but the bond formed through the night remained stronger than ever. Aiden reflected on the events. Humans were often underestimated even by themselves in the vastness of space. Yet here they were, using courage, creativity, and compassion to protect a civilization unlike any they had ever known. He realized that the human ability to adapt and empathize was their greatest strength. The Queen, sensing his thoughts, made a sound that resonated with both gratitude and wonder. She had witnessed countless events in her life, but the ingenuity of a human, combined with her own power, had saved her civilization's legacy. For the first time in centuries, she felt a lightness in her chest, a sense that she was not entirely alone. Aiden looked around the glowing city, marveling at its beauty. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, other threats, other discoveries, but for now they had succeeded. Together, human and alien had protected something precious, and in doing so, had formed a connection that transcended species, language, and time. Night passed with quiet reflection. The Queen allowed Aiden to remain close, her glowing tendrils occasionally brushing his arm in a gesture of companionship. The forest whispered around them, alive with energy yet at peace. Aiden felt a deep satisfaction, not just in victory, but in the knowledge that humans could make a real difference, even in the far reaches of the cosmos. By dawn, Aiden and the Queen began planning the next steps. They would continue to explore the tower, preserve the memories and strengthen the defenses. But more importantly, they would build a partnership, one that honored her past, respected her grief, and embraced the potential of hope. Aiden realized that the journey was far from over. Other challenges would come and dangers might arise again. But he also knew this. Humans, with their courage, creativity, and empathy, could face the unknown and make a lasting impact. And with the Queen by his side, they could protect a civilization that might otherwise have been lost forever. As the twin suns rose over Luminara, the city glowed in soft, reassuring light. The Queen stood tall, her wings extended, her tendrils brushing over the ground. Aiden watched her, feeling a mix of awe and respect. They had faced danger together, and through it, a bond had formed, one that promised hope, trust, and perhaps even friendship across the vast distance between worlds. The day ahead held mysteries, challenges, and discoveries. But for now, in the quiet glow of Luminara, human ingenuity and alien power had combined to protect something extraordinary, and that Aiden knew was only the beginning. The night on Luminara was unusually quiet. After the attack of the alien fleet the previous day, the city's glowing towers shimmered softly, reflecting off the calm rivers and luminescent forests. Captain Aiden Ryder sat near the alien Queen, observing the serene beauty of the planet. He had spent the night thinking about everything he had learned, the Queen's history, the brilliance of her civilization, and the sheer strength it took to survive centuries of solitude. The Queen stirred beside him, her glowing tendrils brushing over the soft grass. She had not slept deeply, but she seemed more at ease than she had in centuries. Her eyes reflected the twin moons above, bright and steady, a stark contrast to the sorrow he had first seen. Aiden realized that in these past days something remarkable had occurred. Not only had they saved her city, but a bond had formed between human and alien that neither had anticipated. "We need to ensure your civilization's knowledge survives," Aiden said softly. "Not just the memories, but the wisdom. Humans can help you." The Queen made a melodic sound. Aiden interpreted it as agreement. Together, they began reviewing the tower's archives, deciding which knowledge could be shared safely and preserved. Aiden was amazed at the depth and complexity of her people's achievements. Technologies far beyond human understanding, methods of communicating with the planet itself, and cultural wisdom that emphasized harmony and compassion above all. "This is incredible," Aiden whispered. "Your people were brilliant. And they were kind. We can help make sure their legacy continues." The Queen moved closer, her tendrils brushing his arm in a gentle gesture. She led him to a chamber filled with the most delicate and vital archives, the memories of her people's greatest moments, their celebrations, and their triumphs. Aiden took careful notes, capturing images, recordings, and even musical tones that conveyed emotion beyond words. Suddenly, his instruments picked up a distant signal, another approaching fleet. His heart raced. The first fleet had retreated, but this one was different, larger and more organized. "We need a plan," Aiden said. He turned to the Queen, who spread her wings protectively. "We'll face them together just as we did before. But this time we'll be stronger." The Queen nodded, her glowing eyes steady with resolve. Aiden realized she had grown to trust humans, not as intruders, but as allies. His mind raced, combining human strategy with the Queen's energy control over the city. They prepared the defenses, optimizing the drones, spore clouds, and reflective devices. Aiden even developed a signal system that could coordinate with the Queen's pulses through the ground. As the fleet descended, Aiden felt a surge of determination. He had learned that humans were resourceful, brave, and capable of empathy beyond expectation. And now the Queen would see this firsthand. The alien ships approached cautiously, scanning the city. Aiden activated a series of devices that sent bursts of light and sound, confusing their sensors. The Queen amplified the energy of the city, creating a barrier that pulsed with her own life force. Together, they formed a defense unlike anything the aliens had seen before. part technology, part natural energy, part human creativity. Hours passed in tense silence. Each time the alien fleet tried to break through, Aiden and the Queen countered with clever strategies and coordinated energy pulses. The forest itself seemed to respond to the Queen, creating fog, barriers, and distractions that slowed the invaders. Finally, as the twin moons reached their peak, the alien fleet gave up. They retreated silently, leaving Luminara untouched once again. Aiden sank to the ground, exhausted but triumphant. The Queen hovered near him, her glowing tendrils brushing gently against his shoulder, a silent expression of gratitude and respect. "You see," Aiden said softly, "humans can do incredible things when we work together, and when we care." The Queen made a musical sound that resonated deep within him. Aiden realized it was her way of saying she understood, she trusted, and she valued his presence. For centuries, she had been alone, carrying grief and responsibility. Now she had a partner, a friend. The following days were spent reinforcing the city's defenses and organizing the archives. Aiden and the Queen worked tirelessly, translating knowledge into formats humans could understand and safely preserve. Every step deepened their bond. She taught him about the planet, its energy, and the delicate balance her people had maintained for millennia. In return, he shared human problem-solving techniques, creativity, and ways to adapt quickly to new challenges. Through their efforts, Aiden realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most powerful species in the universe. But they had a unique ability to connect, to empathize, and to create solutions in impossible situations. That combination of traits made them extraordinary, even in a galaxy filled with wonders. One evening, as they walked through the glowing forest, the Queen gestured toward the valley below. The city sparkled like a constellation on the ground. Aiden could see small drones moving in harmony with the natural energy, lights reflecting off the crystal towers. The archives were secure, the defenses stronger than ever. And for the first time in centuries, the Queen allowed herself to smile. A subtle gesture, but one filled with hope. "You've changed my world," she communicated through melodic tones. Aiden understood her meaning. She had been alone for so long, burdened by grief and responsibility. Humans had shown her that hope was not lost and that companionship could exist even across species. Aiden smiled. "No," he said softly. "We've changed each other. Humans and your people. Together, we can honor your history and maybe even create a future." The Queen's eyes glimmered with light. She moved closer, her tendrils intertwining briefly with his arm, a gesture of trust and friendship. For the first time in centuries, she did not feel the crushing weight of solitude. As the twin suns rose, casting warm light across the valley, Aiden realized that this mission had become something far greater than exploration. It was about connection, empathy, and the courage to act in the face of loneliness and loss. Humans had not only protected the Queen's civilization, but they had also reminded her that hope could endure, even after unimaginable tragedy. The Queen led him to a high tower overlooking the valley. From there, he could see the vast expanse of Luminara, the glowing forests, the crystal rivers, and the city that had survived against impossible odds. Aiden felt a profound sense of purpose. Humans could not live forever, nor could they preserve entire civilizations alone, but their ingenuity, courage, and empathy could make a difference when it mattered most. "You've given me something I thought was lost forever," the Queen communicated through her melodic tones. Aiden understood. She was no longer just a guardian of memories. She was now part of a partnership that could endure, combining human resourcefulness with her extraordinary abilities. In the days that followed, Aiden documented everything. He recorded the Queen's knowledge, her history, and the methods that had saved the city. He sent transmissions back to human colonies, sharing what he had learned, emphasizing not just technology, but the values of cooperation, compassion, and courage. Humans would remember Luminara, not just as a discovery, but as a story of hope and partnership. The Queen, once lonely and sorrowful, now radiated confidence. She moved through the city with grace, overseeing drones and maintaining the planet's energy. But there was lightness in her steps. She had learned to trust humans, and in turn, humans had learned to respect the depth and complexity of her civilization. Aiden stood beside her, gazing at the horizon. The twin suns reflected off the crystal towers, painting the valley in shades of gold and violet. For the first time in centuries, the Queen's world felt alive in a way that was not burdened by grief. There was hope and there was companionship. "You've changed everything," Aiden said softly. "Not just for your civilization, but for both of us. Humans and your people can face the unknown together." The Queen's tendrils brushed lightly against his arm, a gesture of warmth, trust, and friendship. Aiden realized that this bond was more valuable than any treasure or discovery. It was a reminder that even in the vast loneliness of space, connection could endure. As the day progressed, Aiden prepared to return to his shuttle for a brief report. The Queen followed him to the edge of the city. Before he left, she extended one of her tendrils and touched his arm, a silent promise that he was welcome any time, and that their partnership would continue. Aiden smiled. "I'll be back," he said. "We have a lot to do together." The Queen's glowing eyes reflected the sunlight, bright and steady. She made a musical tone, almost like laughter, and then spread her wings. Aiden watched as she lifted gracefully into the sky, gliding above the city she had saved and the world she would continue to protect. As his shuttle lifted off, Aiden looked down at Luminara one last time. He felt pride, awe, and hope. Humans had made a difference here, not through sheer power but through courage, creativity, and empathy. They had helped preserve a civilization, comfort a lonely queen, and prove that even in the darkest times hope could endure. And in that moment, Aiden understood the true meaning of being human, the ability to face the unknown, to act with heart and mind, and to connect across the vastness of the universe. Luminara had survived, and so had the spirit of friendship between species. A new dawn had truly arrived, for both the alien queen and humanity.